Every day, 20 million barrels of oil pass through this narrow stretch of water, barely 33 kilometers wide. This is the Strait of Hormuz, and if this thin blue line on the map stops working, the global economy could feel it within hours. Zoom out. You're looking at the Persian Gulf. To the north sits Iran. To the south, the United Arab Emirates and Oman. Between them lies a maritime choke point so critical that roughly 1/5 of the world's oil supply passes through it every single day. That's more than 20 million barrels of oil moving through a corridor narrower than most cities. Tankers line up here like cars on a highway, except this highway floats. Now imagine this map lighting up. A missile test near the Iranian coast, a naval exercise from the US Fifth Fleet, drone surveillance from Gulf states. Every arrow on this map tells the same story. The Strait of Hormuz is not just a shipping route, it's a pressure point. Because geography, unlike politics, doesn't negotiate. Oil leaving Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Kuwait, and parts of the UAE must pass through this corridor before reaching global markets. From there, it spreads outward, towards Asia, Europe, and beyond. China, India, Japan, and South Korea, entire industrial economies rely on these tanker routes. Now, draw another circle around the strait, roughly 300 kilometers outward. That's the estimated range of several coastal missile systems capable of targeting ships in the region. Suddenly, the map feels tighter. This isn't hypothetical strategy. Iran has repeatedly warned it could close the Strait of Hormuz if tensions escalate. And while closing it completely would be extremely difficult, navies, patrol aircraft, and allied fleets watch these waters constantly. Even partial disruption could ripple across global markets. Oil prices would spike. Shipping insurers would panic. Energy traders would start doing math very quickly. The global economy runs on confidence, and choke points like Hormuz test that confidence daily.
This map displays
Now watch the traffic pattern again. Dozens of tankers moving in narrow lanes only 2 miles wide each, inbound and outbound, separated by a safety buffer. It's efficient, but it's also fragile. One lane blocked, whether from conflict, accident, or sabotage, and the entire corridor slows. That's the strange thing about global trade. The system looks massive, but it often depends on very small places. And the Strait of Hormuz might be the most important small place on Earth. Naval patrol routes overlap here constantly. US carriers, allied frigates, and surveillance aircraft operate in the region precisely because everyone understands the stakes. Not because war is inevitable, but because deterrence requires visibility. In other words, everyone is watching everyone else watch the water. There's also a quieter layer to this story. Pipelines have been built to bypass the strait. Saudi Arabia and the UAE both maintain routes that send oil across land to other ports. But even those alternatives can't replace the full volume that Hormuz carries daily. Which means that narrow blue channel remains the beating artery of global energy trade. So when analysts talk about tensions in the Persian Gulf, they're rarely just talking about politics. They're talking about geometry. Distances between coastlines, missile ranges, shipping lanes, and the uncomfortable truth that a few kilometers of water can influence the price of fuel across an entire planet. That's why every time tensions rise in this region, the map gets a little more attention. Because maps reveal what headlines often miss. And in this case, the map shows something simple and unsettling. The world's energy lifeline runs through a corridor so narrow that a single disruption could echo from Tehran to Tokyo, from Riyadh to New York. Which raises an uncomfortable question. If the global economy depends on one fragile passage of water, what happens if that passage ever goes quiet? If you enjoy map-driven stories that break down the hidden geography behind world events, make sure to like, share, and subscribe, because sometimes the most important stories on Earth are hiding in plain sight on the map. And the Strait of Hormuz is just one coordinate. The real question is, which choke point will matter next?